So I'm going to spin this a little bit. Remember, it's about delegates, okay? I thought he would win Missouri and Illinois by comfortable margins, lose by equivalent margins in Florida and North Carolina, and split Ohio. It's a little different than what other people were suggesting, okay? But had it worked out that way, it basically cancels out and lets him move forward. The results? Well, he performed about how was expected in Florida, maybe a little better, but it's within margins. But he did a little better in North Carolina than expected, which is good. That said, he did a little worse in Ohio than expected. In terms of delegates, if you do the math, it actually cancels out. It's within like 5 delegates, right? So it broadly cancels out. The fact that he did better than expected in North Carolina cancels out his. I think pretty much everybody acknowledges he did a little worse in Ohio. I was not expecting him to win Ohio. I suggested it would be a likely split. So, I mean, if you consider that, I think most people expected Clinton to get above 60 in North Carolina. She got, around 55. I was expecting, Clinton to get around 52, maybe 51. In Ohio, it was going to be like that kind of thing. Or even if it's to 50-50. She got 57, so, 5 one way, 5 the other. Or maybe even, to be honest with you, more like 10 in North Carolina versus 5 in Ohio. However you do the math, it really does balance it, right? So we can forget about that. So what is the disappointment then? It's that he did not do better in Missouri and Illinois. Although, again, I pointed out that Missouri is a purple state. You should have expected them to split, and they did split pretty much right down. Okay, so the one really, I mean, some of the polls had him ahead in Missouri, and I grasped onto that, right? But Illinois, I think that everything pointed towards him winning Illinois by a substantial margin. Okay, he may end up winning both. I'm reading this a little bit later. He didn't win either, but he's really splitting both, regardless of who technically wins. But he needed to use those states specifically and mostly Illinois to try and gain delegates, not to break even. Okay, so where he's going to lose delegates tonight is in underperforming in Missouri and Illinois, especially Illinois, and that likely reduces the turnout. If he had a higher turnout in Illinois amongst independents, he would have done better. Okay, is it spring break? Well, maybe. Maybe it's a lot of people partying, one way or the other, that forgot to vote, right? Maybe they didn't need a spring break to party. I don't need a spring break to party. I make sure I go and vote, though. It makes it a little harder, sure, okay, but it doesn't really change the race. No, it really doesn't, okay? Honestly, if you look at it closely, it really doesn't. He still needs to get about 60% over the next 9 states up to New York, and he should be able to do that. And he still needs to win 50 plus delegates in New York, which he was going to have to do, okay? He was always going to have to win New York by a big margin. From there, the math isn't really substantially different. It just puts a little bit more pressure on him winning the string of states after New York. He was going to have to win them anyways, but it just puts a little bit more pressure on them winning bigger numbers, okay? And then he still has to win big in California. So, I mean, if he can make up, a few more delegates on a state-by-state basis, if he starts losing the next couple of states, then, that's when we start, slowly walking away kind of thing. But the actual real truth is that what happened tonight does not really change the nature of the race at all. It doesn't change the dynamics. It doesn't change the math. It would have been a moral victory if he had won 30 or 40 more delegates, okay? It would have looked better on paper. You got the little check marks. You can say, we won, but it really doesn't change the math. It really doesn't. And there's a little calculation here. If he would have got 60% in Missouri instead of 50% and 60% in Illinois instead of 50%, you're looking at a difference of about 25 delegates. Okay? And if he does better than expected in Pennsylvania, or a few other states, even New York, then he can make that up. Okay, so this seems terrible. It's not. Um, if you know, if the vote would have turned by 2% the other way in Illinois and Missouri, um, or by 5% in North Carolina, um, you would have seen, it just comes down to the media presentation, um, which is, of course, a big deal, right? I mean, the perception is a big part of it, but as far as the actual math is concerned, it really doesn't make a big difference. Um, I know that I've been watching the Young Turks quite a bit, and they're focused on winning. It's all about I mean these guys are jocks, right? And they might not they might be reformed jocks or whatever, um, or maybe late coming jocks, but I mean they're obviously jocks, right? They're all about winning. It's all about the game and all these sorts of things, right? Um, I grew up in a family where my father and my uncles were all big sports fans. My dad was drafted as a hockey player. He was drafted by the 67s. He wasn't able to get there. He broke his knee or something. I never really got the full story, and he's dead now, so I can't ask him. But he was drafted as a he was on his way to becoming an NHL player, which is a common and was especially a common dream of kids growing up in the 60s and 70s, right? So he loved his sports, right? I kind of got into the data side of it a little bit. There was a time when I could run off all kinds of weird stats, all kinds of weird trivia and stuff. I never even learned how to skate. So I mean, I was never. I don't want to exaggerate it. I don't want to The truth was I was never particularly bad at sports. Maybe that's a little bit of a transgender stereotype. I should push back a little bit. I mean, just because I'm kind of girly doesn't mean I can't run. I never really liked to hit. I'll give you that. That is true. I was never particularly keen on the tackling aspect of things, or the body checking aspect of things. I didn't like that. Okay, that is true. But I could lob a ball. I could throw. I could catch. That doesn't make me any less girlish to say that I could throw a ball or I could catch a ball. And fuck you if you say otherwise. So it's 2016. But anyways, I don't know how this has nothing to do with what I'm saying. What I'm saying is just that I'm watching this coverage, and for them it's about winning, right? It's about winning a state. They want to support this candidate or that. Maybe they have side bets. Somebody's got to buy somebody else a beer. I know that culture, right? I grew up in it. It's not my thing. I don't live in it now. I try to avoid it fairly strenuously, but I understand it, right? And so there, if that's your mindset, you look at the results and you say this is a disaster. He lost every state. But the reality is that, the it might seem the perception might be completely different had he put it up a few more percentage points. But in terms of delegate math, it really doesn't make a damn difference. Nothing has honestly changed. And I'm going to talk about that 25 or 30 delegates and really what's behind that in a moment.